Welcome back to session 3. We hope session 1 and 2 have gone well. In session 3 today, we're going to look at the hot dog stand game. And so some of the materials that you're going to need is the money tracker sheets, the hot dog stand game boards, the business task cards, the game pieces, and the die. Again, there are key term flashcards if you'd like to utilize those in your classroom, as well as getting the name tents back from your teacher. One great thing to do to prep for this activity is to put a die and 4 game pieces in small baggies so that it is ready to go when you want to hand them out to the students. That way you're not juggling all the different pieces. So we would suggest just making up small snack baggies so that you can easily hand out 1 baggie and 1 game board to each student. And that way you don't have to juggle with all the individual pieces. To start off today's activity, you're once again going to greet the students and talk a little bit about what they have already been learning about entrepreneurs. And today you're going to jump into talking about the elements of successful businesses. You're going to talk a lot about what makes businesses successful. What are some of those key things that they do? In Junior Achievement, we are going to be touching on 6 tasks that most businesses do when they are in order to be successful. So it's a great time to hand these business task cards out and then to have the students talk through each of the tasks and use this kind of as your guiding discussion. There are also some key vocabulary terms such as advertising, expense, revenue, customer, profit, and loss. Expenses and revenues can be really challenging for students to understand. So one thing that I do is on the board, I write the word expense equals exit and revenue equals receive. And then I underline the EX on expense and the EX on exit. And I talk to the students about how an expense is money that's exiting their pocket or exiting the cashier till, and how revenue is money that they're receiving into it. And I try to help them with that EX and that RE to try to really conceptualize those terms. So as you walk through each of the business tasks, what you'll notice is that task 1 starts off by saying, pay for the resources you need for the business. These are your expenses. And so one thing that we would like to encourage you to do, it's not in the guidebook, but we would really like you to point out the fact that how do the business people get the money to pay for these needed resources to get them started. This is just a great brainstorm to have the students talk about. If you're needing the resources in order to start the business, how are you going to get that money? They might throw out ideas such as borrowing money from friends or family, having people invest in them with stock, having a savings to be able to go to and actually taking the time to save the money for it, or even asking for donations that might be able to help them get started. So that's just a great way to get them thinking about how are they even getting the money to get started. And then from there, just continue to talk through the tasks and really get them to see that, you got to get the word out through advertising. You have to set your price and sell it. And again, that's going to be the revenue that you're receiving. You need to treat your customers well or they're not going to come back. You need to often make tough business decisions as they arise. And then finally, they need to carefully track their expenses and their revenue. And again, you might introduce the term of financial report to them. And we are going to be spending the bulk of our time together looking at how businesses track that money. The students are now going to move into actually getting to experience what tracking that money is going to be like. And they're going to do that by playing a board game. So before you split the students into small groups, I would explain this game. And what I did is I actually taped this up on the board so that it was up there and I could just talk through it on the board before we got into small groups. So what this game board is the students are going to get into small groups and they're all going to play this game. So there's going to be 1 game board and 1 die and the 4 chips of color for each of the groups, and then each student is going to get their own money tracker. What you'll notice is that this money tracker is color coded and matches the game board. So for example, task 1 was to buy your supplies, and so task 1 over here is also green so that they can make that correlation. So you want to make sure to point that out. Now this isn't your typical game board in that it follows the flow. Basically what you're going to have the students do is everybody's going to be working on their own. They're going to roll the dice and then they're going to move their game piece to that specific spot. So for example, if I rolled a 4, I'm going to jump right here and I had to pay $2 for each hot dog and I bought 10 hot dogs. So my total expense was $20. So I would put $20 right here in this green section on my money tracker sheet. Then the next student is also going to roll and they're going to continue to stay on this green line, etc., etc. So everybody's going to take their turn for task 1. Then what they're going to do is they're going to start over counting with task 2. So what I had my students do is I had them all move their game pieces and I had them set them right here so that they remembered that they're going to start over counting with number 1 right here on task 2. So they're not going to follow the path around like a typical game board. They're going to start over for each task. So there again, I would roll the die. I would then maybe get a 2 and find out that I made and hung my advertising posters and I had $1 of an expense. So again, I'm going to put that task in my blue section over here of $1. The next student's going to go, the third, fourth, and then again, you're going to start over right here with everybody starting again, rolling the die and moving forward. So that is how you're going to talk them through that so that they can see it before they actually get into their small groups. Once the students get into their small groups, you want to again just have them look at this tracker sheet with you as a whole class. And what you're going to notice is that the expenses are on this side, the revenue is on this side. So what they need to do is carry those numbers. Once they add them together, they're going to carry their total revenues up here, their total expenses down here, which is going to be following the arrows, and then getting their total. At the very end, on task 5, dealing with the ups and downs, this is going to be kind of like a chance. And so in the purple section, they may get an expense or they might get a revenue. And so that is just depending upon what happens in their specific scenario. And then at the very end, you're going to see if the students receive a profit or a loss. Allow the students to play the game for as much time as your class period allows. Make sure to have the teacher available to be ping-ponging to group because in order to get them on track and to make sure that they're all playing the game properly, you and the teacher will both want to be going to each group just to make sure that they are on the right track. Some of the students are going to struggle a little bit with the math, so just know that you can encourage people who do get it to help a friend if need be. At the very end, you want to pull it all back together, have the students share a little bit about if they got a profit at the end or a loss, kind of what some of those situations happened as to maybe if they had a loss, why that was. Talking about the importance of saving money is so important in your summary and review as well. And again, that's not something that the book really highlights, but at Junior Achievement, we always want to be challenging the students to think about the importance of saving money, even if they have a profit. So most of your students are going to end up with a profit throughout this game. And so talk a little bit at the end about why it would still be important to save money. And this is going to set a bridge for next activity, because in the next activity, you're going to specifically be talking about problem solving. And so with problem solving, things come up and they may or may not be ready for it, and they might need to have money in the bank to be able to purchase something that broke or whatever the situation might be. So again, talk about the importance of saving money even if they are making a profit, and gear them up for the next time you come in that they're going to be talking about problem solving skills. Enjoy session 3.